Being hands-off with your bees in the winter can lead to your bees dying off. As beekeepers, we usually feel like pretty good sometimes that we put our bees to bed for winter. That's a term that we use. But the problem is, bees don't go to bed for winter. Your bees need you now. Today, I'm going to give you 3 essential January or winter tips that you can't live without. Let's get started. So the first tip is you need to check externally. Check everything around your hive on the outside. Look especially where the cracks, the seams are in the boxes, and make sure that nothing has weakened, there's no holes. Like that's a little funny spot here, but it's okay, it's tight. But some wood there has broken away, but it's going to be okay this winter. Look all the way around your hive and make sure that everything is still very sealed off. While we're looking at the outside, we have to check the top covers. So you want to gently pull up, make sure that they're not going to pop off. So this one is still tight, even though it doesn't have a brick on it, it still has a good propolis seal, so it's okay. Next thing you want to do while you're back here is go around to the back of the hive and pick up the back of the hive. Oh boy, that's heavy. So I know they have some good resources on board. Another part of the external inspection is to take a look here at the bottom board, and you want to make sure that it is still intact and it's not clogged up with dead bees. In this case, we've got the winter bee kind up here that the bees are going up and out and using that. But we have this as an alternative for them. And so you want to make sure if you just have the bottom board entrance to make sure it isn't clogged up with snow, ice, or dead bees. So tip number 1 was to check externally around the hive. Tip number 2 is to check internally. Well, wait a minute. I thought you said, David, we can't open a hive up when it's cold. It's cold. It's 34 degrees Fahrenheit. That means it's only 1 degree Celsius. So it's too cold, way too cold for me to be out here, too cold for me to open up any of these hives. But the biggest thing that we can do to help our bees internally is to feed them. Now, since we can't look inside, we can't really do an inspection to see if they have enough honey on board. Let's assume that they don't. The best way to treat your hives in the wintertime is just treat them like a guest on your property, like a guest in your house. If somebody came by to visit you, you might say, hey, welcome to my house. Are you thirsty? Do you need something to eat or drink? Assume that your guests, your honeybees on your property, assume that they're starving and feed them some top candy, like a winter bee kind, a candy board, some fondant. Whoa, look at that, I can tell. The bees are up there and they've already eaten so much of that winter bee kind already. Let's put something on top of the hive. Don't feed them anything at the entrance. Don't feed them anything like liquid in the wintertime, but some hard candy is going to be really good for them if they can get to it, if it's right on top of where the cluster is. Another thing that we can talk about internally is, are they warm enough? Now, if they have weakened because there's not many bees in there, maybe you had a failing queen in the fall and now a colony has become very low populated, going to be hard for them to keep warm. So in that situation, if you have a small number of bees that are low in population, then you need to wrap them. Give them a fighting chance, wrap them in some type of wrap. I like to use bat insulation. But in the case of these hives out here, they're very strong. I don't need to wrap them because they're plenty warm because of the high population of bees inside of winter physiology. Now, the third winter tip for January that I want to share with you guys is this. Now, even though it feels like we put our bees to bed for winter, this is tip number 3. We haven't. They still need us. They need you right now as a beekeeper to really push in deeper, level up, and figure out what you're going to do when your bees come out of winter. Now, I know it seems crazy to talk about that right now in January, the first week of January, but for some people down on the coast in the U.S., some people that are maybe in southern Florida, for example, you might even start seeing dandelions. You're only a week away from bees swarming, and that's going to keep moving up closer and closer. Look, even though some people may only be a week away from swarms and need to split their hives, I'm only about 15 weeks away from dealing with swarms, and that's a good thing to think about in the middle of winter. So this is a time for you as a beekeeper to spend the next few weeks deciding, how am I going to learn swarm control? And by the way, I'm going to keep watching. I'm going to tell you the best swarm control method I think out there. And number two, you need to think about, how am I going to make my splits? I mean, you want this hive to survive. You want all these hives to make it through winter. And you're in the middle of winter and you can just go in your house, cover up, stay warm, but I don't want you to really stop thinking about bees. I want you to keep learning right now. In a few weeks, either a week to 15, maybe 20 weeks if you live way up north, but in a few weeks you're going to have to start planning swarm control and making splits. That means you need to have plenty of equipment. So you might need to buy your boxes now. You might need to start studying how to make splits. You might need to start studying my videos on swarm control. Look, if your bees swarm, two things happen that are bad. Number one, you're going to lose half your colony in the spring. That might destroy your chances of having a good honey crop. And number two, if they fail to actually raise another queen, or she fails to get mated, there's no eggs for them to raise another one, you could lose the hive because they swarmed. It's not that uncommon. So I think it's important for you to realize you'd like for that hive not to swarm. Keep your bees, don't let them go to the trees, okay? I've actually made a video on one of the best methods of swarm controls out there. You'll like this video, you need to watch it. Watch it in the month of January so you'll be prepared to not let your bees swarm, but keep them together. So watch this video right here. I'll teach you guys how to do swarm control with the Demeray method. I'll see you guys over there. I'm gonna go back inside. My fingertips are frozen.